Hello, fellow human light beings. This is Mahadeva the Thunder Wizard. I am coming on here at the last minute, probably in the middle of the night, wherever you live. I'm in Australia, so it's afternoon for me. Today we're going to be talking about the true nature of extraterrestrials, and we're going to ask the question, how did this short video that I'm going to show you go viral on Facebook? It's only been up for a few weeks and it's already almost 500,000 views so far. And we're going to look at that, and we are going to talk about some extremely important issues. In fact, I'm going to tell you right here and now, if you do not understand what the actual reality of the extraterrestrial phenomenon is, if you do not know the truth about this, the deepest truth about it, then you do not know the deepest truth about the deep state, dark force elite that are controlling this world. Not only that, I will go so far as to say that it is the truth behind the extraterrestrial phenomenon that is necessary to even begin to understand the true shift and awakening to 5D. Why are they here? What are they doing? Who are they? We're going to analyze most of what most people think, because just by living in the third dimension, you are already at a disadvantage. I know. If you were to talk to me 2.5, 3 years ago, I would be making this video to me that the third dimension is completely, totally distorting your ability to understand what the nature of this shift that is happening. And to the degree that you understand what is truly happening, you have a greater opportunity to make an easier shift to this higher dimension that we are running into. But I will definitely say that society, the social construct that we live in as humans, in order for it to change, the most important hidden truth on so many levels is focused on this extraterrestrial phenomenon. So we're going to talk about that. Before we do that, I'm going to play you a short video. Again, this is a video that I uploaded, I don't know, maybe a month ago. And it's gone completely viral on Facebook. I have a Facebook account, which is the Path of the Thunder Wizard. And on there, the video that has had the most views, at this point, we're looking at almost 500,000 views. This is just a simple 1-minute video on the true nature of extraterrestrials. And people are responding, of course, from both sides of the argument. Of course, I'm getting attacked like crazy. Born-again Christians are calling me possessed. And then there are people who are waking up who are saying, thank you, I knew this, or I've always thought this to be true, or something like that. The essence of the message of this short video has had such a profound effect on people's consciousness, and it opened me up to the power of what social media can do if it's used the right way. So here is that video. Let me see, did I upload it? Yeah, I think this is it right here. They are souls, just like you're a soul inside of a body. They are a soul, and they primarily live on higher dimensions. They're actually us, and these beings have a very, very deep connection to what we would call life after death. For them, there is no death. So when we die, from their perspective, the only thing that happens is our soul moves to a different dimension. And our soul interacts with them. And there's a lot of stories I haven't shared with the channel, but I've interacted with people who have passed in my life who have been brought to me by these higher dimensional beings. Question your reality. All right, so there's that video. Just a 1-minute video. I didn't pay a lot of attention to it when I uploaded it. I was just deciding to try and expand the channel by using these short videos, and it didn't go viral on YouTube. It's going viral on Facebook. And what's interesting about it is that people are sharing it, because that's how Facebook works. So people are watching it, sharing it to others, so it's getting passed around and it's blowing up. And the responses have been very interesting. And I made a video yesterday. It was just sort of a joke about, if people think I'm possessed here, the TikTok comments. And I just used TikTok because it was easier for me to look at it while making a video. What people are responding to is the idea, number one, that extraterrestrials have souls. Now, this goes directly against our religions. Our human religions, not spiritual paths, I would consider like Vedic, Buddhism, shamanism, Native American paths, basically all of the pre-Christian polytheist paths. They all have this understanding to some degree. So you say that to somebody who's a Hindu, they're going to go, yeah, that makes sense. You say that to a Christian, their mind's literally going to explode. Their brains are going to be splattered all over you, because they can't comprehend the idea that any being other than a human being has a soul. And this belief is actually completely central to the idea and the acceptance of alien abductions. If it weren't for the monotheist religions and the effect that this religion has had on the mindset of human beings, people would not have bought into the whole alien abduction phenomenon. I don't know why I'm looking at my playback here and it says nothing's happening, so I don't know what's going on here. Let me see. Okay, I'm back now. And it's because of this idea of the soul. You cannot understand what extraterrestrials are and what they're doing until you understand the true nature of the soul, the true nature of what we would call life after death, the true nature of this third dimension. If you don't understand that, then you are going to be trapped in a very three-dimensional understanding. And why that's an issue is because the more three-dimensional your understanding is, the more easily you will be manipulated. And bear in mind that the manipulation that is happening, the things that are happening in society, even though we look at it and things are coming apart at the seams, because they are, there is a plan to all of this that has been in the making for decades, if not centuries. There are a lot of things that I can't talk about on YouTube, so I'm not going to. By the way, as I said, I put a link in the description if you want to find out the true nature of alien abductions. There are things on there that I was able to put up some documents that I've shared. If you don't read those documents, if you don't understand what those documents are and apply it to the world understanding of the alien phenomenon, then you are being manipulated. And I'm going to get into that, into our list. Before I go any further, if you're new to the channel, what I need you to do is like, subscribe, and comment so that the YouTube algorithm will get this message out. Hopefully this video will go viral. That would be great. Like, subscribe, comment, go to the free playlist section, click on the Maoshan Qigong, the interdimensional meditation, and the 12 steps to 5D. Everything in the Maoshan Qigong is going to eventually, very soon, be moved over to the thunderwizard.com shop, which is this. If you go to thunderwizard.com, click on the shop, you can see there are meditation and Qigong practices. Everything in the Maoshan Qigong is going to be moved over there. It's already moving over there. But the other two playlists, the interdimensional meditation and the 12 steps to 5D, those contain actions that I think you need to take. That's my opinion. You're free to do whatever you want. I strongly suggest that you do one thing from both of those playlists every day, the 12 steps to 5D and especially the interdimensional meditation. If you want to stop worrying about what to believe about ETs, the greatest way to find out everything you need to know is personal experience. And that can be done very easily. I have guided interdimensional meditations. If you don't want to do mine, you can Google CE5, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind Protocols. Once you have substantial contact with extraterrestrials, your understanding of aliens will completely shift. Your understanding of yourself and the nature of the soul, everything will begin to completely, totally shift, especially if you meditate and communicate with them. Seeing them fly around in the sky is great. It opens up your awareness, but that's one thing. Communicating with them, whole other deal. And again, people, I put this up here on purpose. Is this guy a real ET contactee or a deluded fraud? People say all kinds of things about me. Call me all kinds of names. I understand. I would have said the same thing. But if you want to find out, you do what I did. I heard Dr. Stephen Greer, you should go to his website, go to his YouTube channel as well. Definitely you should do that. If you have any interest in knowing about extraterrestrials, shame on you if you haven't scoured his information. Seriously, shame on you for saying, I believe in ETs, I'm interested in UFOs, I go to UFO conferences, and you haven't looked at his material. Shame on you. The most in-depth, I don't even know how many thousands of documents he has available. He has over 750 actual whistleblowers who can't come forward because they've been threatened with execution and all kinds of other things. And if you say you want to know the truth is out there, and you haven't put any effort into looking at that, I say you're a fraud. You say you're into UFOs and you haven't looked at that, I say you're a fraud. So let that harsh challenge push you to actually find out what it is you think you want to know about this stuff. And again, the only reason I have had so much interaction with extraterrestrials is because I actually sought it out. I didn't, and I never have. I don't believe anything anybody says face value. I don't believe anything that's written in a book. I don't believe anything that's in a video. I have to experience it. And I'm grateful I'm that way, because now I know. I know things I couldn't have possibly known had I not actually physically experienced it. And I recommend everybody do the same. So we've got a list here we're going to go into, which is, I'm going to try and get to this. Just let me get this out a little bit. There are people that are responding to me. It's one thing people responding to me on Facebook and TikTok and all that. I expect them to be a bunch of trolls. But when people who I've seen who've been on my channel, whose names I recognize in the comments section, when people like that come to me with narrative, with 3D narrative about extraterrestrials, whom I can tell by their comment they haven't had any physical personal experience, who don't really know how to employ critical thinking, have not had 10% of the linguistic and historical background and education that I have. When they want to come onto my channel and they want to school me, I get annoyed. Especially when it's presented to me in the form of a question. You know how I feel about that. If you can't be direct and you have to frame your wanting to pick an argument with me in a question, I'm going to get very annoyed when I actually go out of my way to answer your question and give you links, and then I find out you weren't interested in my opinion the whole time. You just wanted to barf out your opinion. That's going to really push my buttons. But what's important about that is not that it pushes my buttons, because we all know that's my thing. I'm working on that. It shows that people self-righteously defend their programming. They self-righteously defend their hypnosis. And they self-righteously defend their ignorance. And they are proud of the fact that their opinion comes from somebody else. It comes from something that's been written down. It comes from something that somebody else said. You know, it's like when people quote the Bible at me. You know, they want to tell me I'm possessed because of this Bible verse. And I say, really? So you believe everything that everybody tells you that's written down in a book? I believe God's word. You're making my point for me. You believe that's God's word because somebody who wrote it down told you it was God's word. Well, how do you know the Bible is God's word? Well, it says so right in the Bible that it's God's word. It self-references. The level of ignorance, the level of naivete, and the level of fear and the need to be part of a group is so pervasive in that argument, it's very hard for me to tolerate. Not only because it's wrong, but because I care deeply about people's awareness. And when people are more attached to being lied to and manipulated and abused than they are to their own awareness, I feel for them. Being the person that I am, it comes out in anger and frustration, but that anger and that frustration is coming from a deep desire to help everybody awaken. And it's impossible. It's impossible to communicate with somebody who is not aware that their fear-based emotional attachment, their need to be part of a group, their need to be accepted, their need to have their fears taken away from them is so strong that they self-righteously promote the views of other people that they have not personally proven because it's written in a book somewhere. One of the biggest, most unbelievable ways this is done is having to do with this whole Anunnaki ancient astronaut nonsense. And people will say things like, it was written down in Sumerian tablets. Yeah, and even if what you're saying is true and you're interpreting the mythology of the ancient Sumerians, and you are interpreting not only the meaning of that symbology, but you actually have the correct interpretation of the language. Even if I give you all of that, which of course, as you can tell, I'm saying you're wrong on all of those, but even if you're correct on all of those things, I know for a fact all you're doing is parroting what somebody has told you. And even if what that person says that you're parroting is true, all they are doing is quoting from a book that was written by a human. The level of childish naivete to say, I believe in Anunnakis because it was written down in this book and this guy has a video and he's... Anyway, for those of you, I'm not going to unzip that file now, but if you want to know the truth about this whole Anunnaki ancient alien stuff that is so pervasive in our modern society, then you must research Zecharia Sitchin. If you do not research Zecharia Sitchin, you cannot say you have any real knowledge about this whole Anunnaki thing. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Zecharia Sitchin, Sitchin. Go and research that first before you start quoting to me your ignorance of what you think was written down in a book. I don't care that it was, I mean, look, it was put in it was written in the Sumerian tablets. Right. They didn't have laptops then. They didn't have typewriters. They didn't have pen and paper. They had clay. And they used basically chopsticks to make some things on it. It was a human writing stuff down. And you're going to put all of your belief in that because it's an old book? Who cares? Humans were the same 3,000 years ago as they are now. I never take anything anybody says. I don't live my life by any scripture. If that scripture happens to coincide with my experience of reality and gives me a deeper understanding of that, great. I'm all for it. I'm impassioned about this because we're going into this this solar eclipse is coming on the 8th. And I don't know if you can feel it, but I can feel everything coming to the surface. Everything is coming out. All of my garbage is coming to the surface. Everybody else's garbage is coming to the surface as well. The dark forces are going to start, if you think that they've been crazy up until this point, they haven't even begun, if they're able to follow through on what they want to do. But it's incredibly important that you understand the mindset behind the narrative. You must be willing to do that. Because everything is going to come out. Everything is going to change, and there will be a shift. I wish it were the case that all the truth is going to come out and everybody wants to know the truth and they're going to go, oh my God, look at the truth. All right, let's upshift. That's not what's going to happen. Sadly, what's going to happen is people's attachment, their emotional attachment to wanting to feel safe, which is expressed in people's fear when they talk about evil aliens. It's their childish fear and their lack of experience with things outside of this dimension. And your attachment to wanting to be safe in the crowd, in the middle of the crowd, and be safe, even if you think you're part of the rebellion, because that is the psyop. We're going to talk about the psyop. Even though you think you're rebelling, if you don't have an awareness of your emotional attachment to your need to be loved and accepted and part of the crowd, even if you're one of those running around rebelling against, the narrative. If you're not willing to take a look at that, when this shift happens, there are going to be people who shift up to a completely different reality, and there's going to be people who shift down to a worse reality, and there's going to be people who shift up to a slightly better one, but they'll still be in the narrative. Take your pick. What do you want? You want to stay in the narrative? You want to rebel against the dark forces? Great. You're going to be in a level of 3D that's a little bit better than ours, but not by much. Do you want to go beyond that? I'm here as a voice to help you with that, to the best of my ability. All right, so let's start with the true nature of extraterrestrials. So we have to start with some assumptions. First one is all conscious beings in the multiverse have souls, including ETs. They all have souls. So the born-again Christians, the Muslims, they're going to have a hard time with this. A lot of people who are part of that monotheist culture are going to have a hard time with this. I'm not going to psychoanalyze that. I just already know. I was a Christian. I know only humans have souls. Everything else, if there's any spirit out there that connects with you and it doesn't confess Jesus is Lord, it's of the devil, test the spirits. Yeah, I remember all that. But the assumption behind all of that is that only human beings have souls. But I'm here to tell you that God, if God exists, God is a soul exactly like you are. No different. No difference. The only difference is if there is a being we would call God, that is the being that is in the highest possible dimension. And the only reason that being would be God is simply because they are outside of the third dimension. The moment that you shift up to 5D, you immediately become a demigod compared to all of the humans. Not because of anything in you, not because of any deeper or more profound awareness, not because of any more righteous anything. It's just when you're at a higher dimensional level, you will have powers and abilities, and that from our third dimensional perspective, we would think they are gods. If you're in the fifth dimension, you're not stuck in one place in time. You can be in as many different points in time in your timeline as possible. You can be in as many different places at one time as possible. That right there makes you a god. You can manifest your thoughts instantly into your 5D reality. That by our experience, that turns you into a god. But what you don't realize is that you have the exact same ability they do. if you shift your frequency up to theirs, you do exactly what they are. You want to look at God, you want to think God, this omnipotent, all-powerful, all-everything. Well, the only reason that God is that is because God is in the 12th dimension. You're also there too, by the way. But if you need to believe in a God outside of you, that's the only reason he's God. If you get up to the 12th dimension, you'll be able to sit down right next to God and have the exact same powers and understanding he has. You'll be able to communicate directly. There won't be any value difference. There won't be any that, take off your shoes, you're on a hollowed ground. You'll both be in that same plane. This is hard to believe. And the ironic thing is I tell people that you're God, and their response is to get angry at me and say that I'm possessed. Does that make rational sense? I just upgraded you. I just told you that you're not a worthless piece of crap. You're not sinful. You're not going to be thrown into hell simply because you exist. In fact, quite the opposite. The fact that you exist is what makes you so valuable, and you are God if you choose to vibrate at that level. And you would think people go, oh really? Oh my God, this whole time I thought I was this tiny little sinful being and I don't have to worry about that? Oh my God, I feel so much better. You mean that religion was wrong? I can let go. Oh, you mean I don't have to worry about being punished? Oh my God, I feel so much better. That's not their reaction. It's totally irrational. Their reaction is to get angry, to call me names and to say I'm possessed. It doesn't hurt my feelings. It's okay, I understand. I'm just pointing out how crazy, how irrational we are in the third dimension. All ETs visiting Earth are trans-dimensional, rarely manifesting in the third dimension. Every movie you've seen, every Whitley Strieber's movie, Communion, Fire in the Sky, you've watched whatever it is, whatever that TV show. I can never remember names of things when I'm on a roll. Remember that TV show about UFOs and ETs and all that? All of that's nonsense. Now, it's understandable because from the third dimensional perspective, you only know the third dimension. So when somebody talks about a being from another planet, you already assume that they live on a planet that has third dimensional laws and they're going to come here in a third dimensional craft and they're going to get out and walk around in an alien but third dimensional body. Maybe they have more technology than we do, but they're third dimensional. All of that is an understandable understanding because you live in the third dimension, so that's all you know. So if somebody says extraterrestrial being, you're going to make up in your head a third dimensional being, and you're wrong. What we don't understand is how unique Earth is. Third dimensional Earth is a very, very unique place in the universe. It is unlike almost every other inhabited planet. Almost every other inhabited planet is in a higher dimension. So that means, by definition, all of the extraterrestrials who are coming to Earth are in a trans-dimensional state. They have to shift their frequency down in order to physically manifest in the third dimension in a way that you can see and perceive and understand. They don't have to do that to interact with you. They don't have to do that to communicate with you or to show their existence. But it will always be in a very strange way. It'll be in a way you can't really truly comprehend. And it's because they're in a higher dimension. So anything that you hear or see about aliens or extraterrestrials that is not fundamentally trans-dimensional, there's a 95% chance you can throw it away as being either delusion, fantasy, or outright lies. Let's continue. Any alien manifesting in the third dimension and or behaving sociopathically is a human. We've talked about this, but it's pretty simple. That means every single alien abduction is done by humans. Even if if you want to find out how they do that, watch the link in the description and click and pause the video and zoom into your camera or your tablet or your laptop and look at those documents. You'll find out exactly what they're doing. I'm not going to get into the details of it here, but every single alien abduction event was performed by humans. All right. So any alien manifesting in the third dimension and or behaving sociopathically is human. So you know, if anybody listen, I've spoken. I've literally physically spoken with at least one person who was abducted. And I asked questions. They didn't ask my opinion, so I didn't give it. But I asked a lot of questions because I came in with the assumption that I'm telling you now. I had that assumption. But I wanted to know from their perspective. And absolutely, from their perspective, if I take everything they say, everything happened in the third dimension. There were some strange things that they couldn't explain. There was some telepathic stuff going on with supposed aliens that they couldn't explain, but it was happening in the third dimension. There was a physical being sitting there. You could throw a rock and hit it in the face, and it was... and there were humans there. She was told not to touch the humans, and she was confused because she couldn't tell how they were feeling. They were emotionally unavailable. Sociopathy. They lied to her. They said, if you touch another human, you'll get jolted with energy. Don't touch them. She did end up touching one of them, and nothing happened. She was lied to. And it was all happening in the third dimension. She wasn't dreaming it. None of that. That was all done and orchestrated by humans using technology, using stagecraft, using all kinds of other things. You can accept that or reject that. But if you understand that and you get that out of your way, then you'll be able to, 99% of all the stuff that's presented to you, you'll know that it's either somebody's misunderstanding, their delusion, their lie, or an outright psyop. And you must understand what the psyop is concerning aliens and ETs. We're gonna scrape the surface of that. So the whole sociopathic thing, point I'm trying to make is if you interact with an ET, you're going to find out very quickly not only is there no sociopathy, the level of love that they have is beyond human understanding. And what you notice immediately is that they have intense emotions. Sometimes some of the really higher level ones, you may sort of kind of not be able to, I mean, you won't have like what this woman experienced where she couldn't tell what people are thinking. She was like looking at the people's faces and she couldn't tell what they were thinking, which made her uncomfortable, at least the way I remember the way she described it. But when you interact with really high dimensional beings, you know that they have a lot of feelings. You might not be able to access them because they're too overwhelming. That's completely different. Don't get me wrong. There's higher level beings. When you're a third dimensional being and you're talking to somebody in the 7th or 8th or the 9th dimension, it can be an overwhelming, frightening experience in ways you can't know unless you've experienced it. Of course, after the fact, you expand into it and it ends up being an awakening experience beyond measure. But there's a difference between that and sociopathy. And of course, anybody who's experimenting on you or implanting you or using you for sexual breeding purposes is a sociopath. Those aren't extraterrestrials. Number 4, there is an ongoing 100-year psyop in all media portraying ETs as evil. So what you don't know yet, which I'm hoping will be made known very soon, because if this knowledge comes out, and again, those of you who claim to be into UFOs and aliens and you are not aware of the films and the information and the documents provided by Dr. Greer and his team, shame on you to not know that human beings have had anti-gravitational technology, faster than light technology, faster than sound technology, scalar weapons for to some degree for 100 years. If you don't know that, shame on you if you say that you're into UFOs and you don't know that. Those with all of the money and all of the power have unbelievable technology that go beyond anything that you've seen in any science fiction movie. When that comes out, it's going to change everything. But once that knowledge comes out of that technology, the people who run your life, banks, oil companies, electricity companies, car companies, everything you can think of that we spend, that basically control society, because that's what controls society: access to those resources, the ability to move, the access to transportation, access to energy, heat, cooling, all of that stuff. Once all the need for that goes away because you have the ability to create that in your own home without having to pay anybody, the entire structure comes crashing down. I'm here to tell you that Jeff Bezos is going into space, and according to him, you don't have to believe me, I'm not making this up, go to his YouTube channel. He wants to put 1 trillion people into space. We don't even have 1 trillion people on the planet yet. He wants to have 1 trillion people in space. He wants to have 1 trillion people in space for one reason: so that he can gain resources to have access to power. Power meaning physical power, like electricity, those things. He makes it clear that's the whole point. He's going up there. He wants to go into space. He wants to mine other planets for raw materials so that he can charge you money. But if you have access to a technology that allows you to heat your home, cool your home, that you have access to your own, cartoon Jetsons flying car, and you have the ability to transport yourself anywhere on the planet, those people lose all of their control over you. Because what they're controlling you over is access to resources. That's all that money is. Money is the symbol. It is the social credit score symbol that allows you access to resources so that they can control you. When all this comes out, it's all going to come crashing down for them. So there's an ongoing 100-year psyop in all media portraying ETs as evil. So everything that I just said, the way that they're going to keep that is by telling you that extraterrestrials are evil, frightening, or that they're some good and some bad. That is one of the biggest conflated lies. There are some goodies and some baddies. That is a third dimensional perspective. If you live in the third dimension, that's true. There are some good people and some bad people. And that's always going to be the case in this frequency of the third dimension. And so since you don't know any better, you're going to say, well, how do you know? Some of them are good or some of them are bad. I know because I've experienced them. You can't take away my experience. You can disbelieve my experience. You can believe that I'm not interpreting my experience correctly, or that I'm deluded, or that I'm lying. You can come to those conclusions, but you can't take away my experience. And until you have the experience, you won't know what I'm talking about. And the point is, you can have my experience. I'm doing everything in my power to give you the tools so you can have it. The whole point of this channel is to give you the tools to have my experience. I have no interest in being a cult leader or a guru. I have no interest in that. My interest is in giving you the power to be your own experience. It is true that we all need teachers. That's another subject. But in terms of me being I have no interest in that. I want you to have my experience so that you know what I'm talking about from your own perspective. You can't do that if you don't take the actions, if you don't have the fearlessness to try it out, if you don't have the curiosity to try it out. You want to be safe, you want to just be in a safe little cocoon, and you want to be part of society, and you want to be loved and accepted, and great, good for you. You'll never learn. You'll never experience it. You'll be manipulated and controlled. So there's an ongoing 100-year psyop. So the point is that trying to convince you and using and manipulating your third dimensional projection of what ETs probably are. The manipulation of that is they've been using that for 100 years because they knew once they made, saw and made contact with true extraterrestrials, and they knew that they could figure out ways to shoot them down and take their technology, which has been going on for 100 years. Once they figured that out, the first thing that they realized is that they must prevent the average person from understanding who these beings are. Because the moment you understand who these beings are, the dark force loses all of their power. But until you have a higher dimensional experience, you won't know that, and they can control you. So from the very beginning of War of the Worlds, it's been a psyop. That book, War of the Worlds. It's been a psyop. And everything that's in the public narrative about aliens is at least partially a psyop. 95% of all UFO phenomena recorded and replayed are human craft. ETs, big giant flying Vs. Many of the, the flying pyramids. Anything that makes a noise, anything that has rivets or seams, almost every single UFO that's seen is human-made. In fact, the word flying saucer came from a pilot who saw an experimental aircraft, and it was in a shape he'd never seen before, and he called it a flying saucer. He didn't think it was alien. He knew it was human. He knew it was an experimental aircraft because of how fast it went. Human beings have the ability to, and this is again part of the so-called whistleblowers. One of the first things they'll do is they hypnotize you, because the first thing they do is they show you a video of a UFO or a UAP flying in ways that you didn't think were humanly possible. The first thing that they say is a lie, and that's said on purpose to hypnotize you. The first thing that they say is, human beings don't have that technology. You consume that, you're now completely accepting of that, that hypnotic suggestion. Then everything they say after it, you buy 100%. So the first thing they say is human beings don't have that technology. And then the second thing that you hear, go and watch any of the news channels, any of the mainstream news channels, you'll see the newscaster say, is this a threat to our airspace? That's a good question. Yes, it is. We can't combat anything like that. It's a lie. 100% complete lie. Everything that you're seeing has been put into your mind by the powers that be. And what is the reason? Their main reason is to keep you from the awareness of the true extraterrestrial transdimensional beings, because when you do, you will find out you are a light being. You will find out you are a transdimensional being having a third dimensional experience. Once you understand that and experience that, nobody can ever control you ever again. And when that happens, they lose everything. So that's why for over 100 years, they've been trying to tell you, extraterrestrials have more technology than you, extraterrestrials are frightening, they are evil. Then, once they've got that out there, then they use reverse psychology. Because they actually they didn't, at least, up until the last couple of years, they didn't want anybody to know that, any of this existed. But they wanted to be able to do things in secret. They wanted to be able to do, they wanted to be able to do abductions. They wanted to experiment on people medically. They wanted to do psychological experiments. They wanted to engage in breeding programs. They wanted to engage in human trafficking. They wanted to engage in all kinds of things without you knowing about it. And if they do it under the guise of alien abductions, then when you go to talk about it, they can use reverse psychology. They can say, well, obviously this person is crazy, which most people who don't want to know anything about what they don't understand goes, yeah, it must be crazy. But those of us who do, they got to have a contingency plan. So they use reverse psychology. They say, oh yeah, these beings exist, but they're more powerful than us, and they have technology, and they're sociopathic, and what would we do if we went to another planet? We would want to study those beings. We might even want to take over their planet for their resources. They want to do that to us. So what happens with these so-called whistleblowers? They come on to mainstream media, David Grush and whoever else, and you say, what is that? Do they have? Yes, they have these abilities. The UFOs have these abilities, blah, 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 blah. But it is far beyond our technology. Is it a threat? It is a threat. And then you say, are they going to attack? And the government says, well, we don't have any information on that. But then the pundits start talking, maybe they're going to attack. That was what was supposed to happen with David Grush. When David Grush came out and started talking about his crashed alien UFO retrieval program, nobody gave a crap. What was supposed to happen is that you were supposed to watch that on MSNBC and NBC, and you were supposed to flip out and get scared. And then everybody was supposed to go to, work and around the water cooler and out at bars and at Starbucks and talk about the alien threat. You notice how close that happened, and then what happened a little later? There was that interesting scenario that happened on Lahaina in Maui, which has been swept under the rug. Again, how many hundreds of billions of dollars have gone to the war in Ukraine, and the people who got burned out of their homes that they owned got $700, and they're still trying to get back into their houses, and it's being commandeered. You don't get to hear about that. Interesting how that happened just not too long after David Grush starts talking about and all these other UFO whistleblowers. This is a psyop. 95% of all UFO phenomena recorded and replayed are human craft. Next one. Almost 100% of UFO conventions, UFO books, UFO television programs, UFO news stories, UFO social media, since I was alive, is a psyop. All of it. None of them are. Name one television show. Name one news story. Name one big UFO story where somebody said the beings that showed up were transdimensional and they actually were us, and we have a connection to them on a soul level, and they're us in a higher dimension, and they're trying to free. How much of that do you hear? Almost none. You see Independence Day, the movie Aliens. Always evil, always sociopathic, psychopathic, murderous. And it works because we're afraid in the third dimension of everything we don't understand. And being animals, being predators, we believe, and there's a movie called Predator, we believe that anything that's going to be in the third dimension that comes from us is another, they're going to want to eat us. They're going to want to experiment on us, because that's what we do with animals. We eat them and experiment on them. That is a psyop, and it's been placed in your mind. That's why people believe in Anunnaki space invaders. That's why they believe that. Because you're stuck in the third dimension. It saddens me because it's, if I were in a different position, I would laugh and mock them. How pathetic it is that you actually take pride in believing that the Anunnakis came and want to experiment on you and use you as a slave. You want to be a slave, to be attached to that belief, especially when people like me come along and give you hard evidence that that's false, and you want to believe that instead of believe the truth about yourself. Yeah, I'm very passionate. This is a war. I am fighting a war, and the war is a mental war. It is a war of understanding. It is a war of narratives. It is an interdimensional war for true understanding. And I am doing everything in my power to fight for myself and for you. I want the human race to get the truth. And it's not cute to me. It is not okay with me that as somebody who has an actual contact experience with extraterrestrials, that I have to bump shoulders with believers in Anunnaki and people who've been abducted by aliens and can't tell the difference, that conflate the two. It saddens me and hurts me to see that, and to be frustrated because there's so little that I can do. And to actually have to engage in arguments with followers on my channel who want to tell me that extraterrestrials are predatory in nature, that Anunnakis want to come and experiment on you and experiment on your DNA so that they can turn you into a slave. I have to argue with my own followers on my own channel about that. And the reason why it upsets me so much is to show how little effect I have on the consciousness of the people who I'm trying to help. It's very frustrating to me. If I wasn't such a warrior, I'd break down into tears. But you guys gotta fucking wake up. And we have got to grow up. We've got to learn how to look at things with critical thinking. We've got to be self-examining. We've got to know what our emotional attachments are. We've got to know when we're operating out of our fears. We've got to know when we're operating out of our desire to be accepted by the narrative, whether that be religion or UFO folklore or the actual psyop that's being shoved down your throat on the mainstream media, on the news, in movies, in UFO conventions. You got to wake the fuck up. Excuse my français. Almost 100% of UFO conventions, books, TVs, news, social media is a psyop. All current whistleblowers on mainstream media are CIA plants promoting psyop. I'm not going to name any names. You know who they are. You've seen them. Every time you get an expert, and you find out that they're always ex-military, and they come on to NBC or MSNBC and they promote themselves as somebody who wants to be a whistleblower and reveal the truth about what's really going on. But their message is always the same. Their message is, these craft are beyond human technology and these beings are dangerous. Even while they're sitting there smiling, talking about disclosure, it's a psyop. And they're setting you up for the fake alien invasion. It hasn't worked because people aren't flipping out. People aren't scared. Nobody cares. That's how deep the third dimensional, what do you call it? The third dimensional delusion is. There's another word I'm looking for. It's hard to talk. I'm getting sunlight's coming in my eyes because seasons are changing. Now the sun's going to be in my eyes in the afternoon. Let's keep going. Current whistleblowers on mainstream media are all CIA plants promoting PSYOP. You want to know who the real whistleblowers are? Go to Dr. Stephen Greer's website and go to his YouTube channel and watch the June 25th press club event and listen to the real whistleblowers who had their lives threatened, who tried to be assassinated. Talk to those people and the other 750 who actually worked in the military and worked in the technology departments who can't come out because they've been threatened or their families have been threatened. If you see a whistleblower and they claim to be ex-military and you see them being interviewed on Fox News, on MSNBC, on NBC, on so-called other mainstream channels, I guarantee you they are planned. Because the real military people, if they came out, you'd find them face down in a ditch somewhere. And you know that we're talking about something much more profound than what we have seen. Look at the guy, the whistleblower for Boeing. You know, the day before that he was going to go and talk about just, you know, quality control at a plane manufacturing plant, he ended up accidentally blowing his brains out the day before. People don't end up on mainstream media whistleblowing against the Pentagon and the military and the government and end up walking the next day. Wake up. I can't tell you how many people I've seen on Facebook who are on CE5 groups who seem to be CE5 practitioners who can't get enough of David Grush, who think he's a hero. And when I point out to them, he's a plant, you can't see that? They get all upset. People got to wake the fuck up. Wake the fuck up, please. 99% of all popular mythology about ancient aliens, Anunnakis, is a psyop. What is the Anunnaki, the mythology, the urban legends that are going around now? That somewhere back in ancient history, these larger than life giant beings from other planets came to Earth to steal Earth's gold, and then took primitive humans and took them into the lab and changed their DNA and turned them into slaves. And they're proud of this. People believe this and they're proud of it. And I say, really? You really are proud of the belief that you think you are nothing more than an animal that's come out of a lab, and that you're being used as a slave? That's how you see yourself? You don't see yourself as an infinite soul who is in fact God? And you're proud of this belief? You think you're somehow on the edge of knowledge and awareness because you're going to talk about ancient aliens, and you're going to talk about, and where does the History Channel, mainstream media, you get it? It's a psyop. This whole promotion of Anunnakis. By the way, again, Zecharia Sitchin is the first guy who started talking about, alien astronauts, ancient alien, blah, 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 and the Anunnaki. He was the first guy that did it. And he was a guy who, when you do the slightest bit, 30 seconds of research into it, you'll find out he didn't understand the original texts, and he misinterpreted things. I'm going to say he did it on purpose. I'm going to say he was trained to do it. I'm going to say he's a CIA plant. Because if you look in the link that I provide, which is just a minute-long video, if you look at those documents, you will see that part of the PSYOP is to create an alien religion so that people would conflate the alien abductions with a religious perspective. And they even say in there that anybody who talks against it wake up. How can you say that that you want disclosure? How can you say that you want the truth, that you want the 5D shift, and in the same breath be proud of believing in this nonsense of Anunnakis? Just to be clear, the Anunnaki is simply the name of the gods in the Sumerian mythology. Anunnaki simply means the children of the Sky Father and the Earth Mother. It says nothing about aliens traveling from other planets. And every single reference, like people say Enki this and Enlil that, and because they heard it in Sumerian, they're parroting something that they heard on the History Channel, which again is what? Mainstream media. If you really want to know what Sumerian mythology is, you can study it, and you will find out it has nothing to do with any of this. It's the same as any other mythology, Greek mythology, Vedic mythology. It's talking about the gods. It's not talking about what people are saying it is. Again, people who, the audacity, the ignorance, the naivete, the childish naivete of people coming to me and saying things like, you can read the Sumerian tablets. I know that's not what you're doing. I know that you can't read Sumerian. I know that you don't even know what the Sumerian language is. I know you can't read cuneiform. And you're going to lecture me on what the Sumerian tablet said? You're just parroting what somebody said. Somebody on Ancient Aliens or the History Channel or something else. Wake up. You've got to wake up, everybody. All right. Current whistleblowers on mainstream media are CIA plants promoting the PSYOP. 99% of all popular mythology about ancient aliens, Anunnaki, is a PSYOP. Until humans learn how to personally transcend the third dimension, ETs will continue to be a mystery. I couldn't have possibly known anything that I know about extraterrestrials had I not communicated with them. And when I did, I was not expecting what happened to me. What happened to my consciousness, I could not have even begun to predict. I thought I knew. You know, I'm a spirit fighter. I was an exorcist. I've been a shaman. I've traveled out of body. I've had out of body experiences. I've communicated with, angels and beings and all that. But when I was actually introduced to higher dimensional experience, without the light show of it all, without my own projections of it all, I had no idea. There was nothing that could have prepared me for that. And what I'm here to tell you, which I'm doing in all of these, if you want to, get little snippets of it, this is why I think that the viral shorts is really great, because I'm finding out in a minute I can transmit a really powerful teaching that you could meditate on and chew on for a while. But if you really want to understand who we are, if you really want to understand what this whole thing is about, you're going to have to figure it out yourself. You're going to have a personal experience, which means you're going to have to do CE5, you're going to have to do interdimensional meditation. You've got to stop believing what other people tell you. I'm not here, I don't expect you to believe me. I don't want you to believe me. I want you to do what I did. I want you to prove me wrong or prove me correct through your experience. Please. Because until we understand the nature of our souls, and until we understand the multi-dimensional aspect of our consciousness, and until we understand that this third dimension is nothing more than a video game for the soul that is not real, it is a simulation, and that you are controlling the simulation. Until you understand that in a way that's beyond your intellect, you can be manipulated, you can be controlled, and you can be abused. Nothing makes me sadder than when I hear about people who have been abducted, who believe that they have interacted with extraterrestrials. And when I hear the abuse that they've gone through, and they conflate it. They conflate their experience with spirituality because they don't know what else to do. They have Stockholm syndrome. Because when you experience something that horrific, that level of psychopathy, that is so far out of what you believe normal reality to be, there's only one thing left to do. You operate out of your trauma, you operate out of Stockholm syndrome. You fall in love with your abusers. This is what I see at UFO conferences. People worshiping. And that, if you read the document I give you in the link, you will see that was the plan. To worship your abusers. To worship those who are psychopathically abusing you. There are people who see it as some kind of symbol of righteousness, that they believe that they've been used as some kind of genetic experiment breeding program, and they're proud of that. It's just downright abuse. Psychopathic physical abuse. It's nothing more than that. And I can tell you, once you understand the nature of energy, the nature of higher dimensions, higher dimensional beings, I mean, just forget about the morality of it. They have zero use for that. They have zero use for your DNA. And you'll know when you get there. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Anyway, I'm going to stop raging for the moment. Until humans learn how to personally transcend the third dimension, ETs will always be a mystery. Understanding the true ET phenomenon is key to the social shift to 5D, for all the reasons that I said in the beginning of this video. That is, when that comes out and people start experiencing it, then not only will society change, the nature of our reality will shift. But that has to happen on a larger level. As I've said, my latest belief, based on my experience with extraterrestrials, based on other people's experiences whom I trust, and based on common sense, looking at all of it, my latest belief, which is open to change, is that there is going to be an event. We are going through this solar flash event, which is an ongoing event that officially started December 21st of 2022. And we are in this shift. That's why everything is happening in society, and everything is coming apart, and all this stuff is coming out. It's because of that. But I do believe that likely there will be a singular event which will be in the sky that everyone will see. And at least for a split second, everybody will have the opportunity to have a transformational spiritual awakening. Depending on how they choose to respond to that will determine what frequency they end up living on. Of course, the dark path, the dark forces, they will run. It's exactly like what the Tibetans say, the Tibetan Book of the Dead. They say when you die, a light appears, and if you, without hesitation, fearlessly go into the light, you don't reincarnate. You go straight to moksha, to liberation. But if you have the slightest bit of hesitation, meaning you have the slightest fear, and they even say that, you have the slightest fear of the light, you get pulled back into manifestation. What is it that the people who are full of fear, who believe in Anunnakis, what do they tell you? They tell you, don't listen to the false beings of light. What do the Christians tell you? Don't listen to Satan, he is a false angel of light. The fear of the light is what will pull you down. The light can't be darkness. You can't have false light. There's no such thing. We are afraid. Why are we afraid? The fear comes from the fear of being truly loved. We live in the third dimension, which is basically everybody in the third dimension, no matter how healthy they are suffering from a narcissistic personality disorder. Like, if you know anything about true narcissists that have personality disorder, what you will find out is that the thing that frightens them the most is to be loved and seen. They believe if they start to feel somebody truly loving and seeing them, they believe they're being consumed. They believe that somebody's actually consuming and destroying them. It brings out violent reactions. What do you think serial killers are? Serial killers, a perfect example is Jeffrey Dahmer. You know anything about Jeffrey Dahmer? He didn't want to kill his victims. He loved them. And when they would get up to leave, he'd kill them. Because he couldn't tolerate the thought of them leaving him. That really what that meant was he couldn't tolerate being loved. He couldn't tolerate that, truly being seen and loved. Because if somebody loves you and they leave and they still love you after they've walked through the door, and you're truly seen and loved, then you're going to have to face all of your pain, you're going to have to face all of your rejection, and that pain is overwhelming. And in order to avoid that pain, people lash out. That's why people sabotage relationships. Human beings have that, even if they're healthy. In order to stay in the third dimension, humans have a narcissistic personality disorder. And when you are seen and loved by a higher dimensional being, you will experience trauma your first time. It will be traumatic for you. And if you are attached to your third dimensional self-evaluation, your first response will be to want to attack them. You will want to see them as abusive. I experienced that. First, somebody said this to me. They said, I feel like I'm betraying the human race. Because they talked to an ET. And they felt such love that their first thought was, I'm betraying the human race. I felt that. There was one point after me interacting with them, I was in tears saying, you're destroying my world. I was saying that to them. You're destroying my world, meaning physical reality. This world, people, the earth. I thought they were going to destroy the earth. Their love was so overwhelming. And this is why the shift is bringing out so much resistance symptoms, or as people call them, ascension symptoms. It's resistance to being truly seen, and it's nothing anybody needs to feel bad about, because just by being human at this frequency, it is impossible to be truly seen and loved without that reaction. But this is what we must go through. This is the challenge of the shift. The challenge of the shift is to be seen and be loved and feel all of the pain, feel all of the rejection, feel all of the trauma, and stay in it, and stay in the love. That's why you should never listen to anybody who says, beware beings of light. You should walk away from that person. They are attached to their trauma and they want to stay in it. And I understand, because it's very painful. They're going to have to face a lot of pain. There's going to be a lot of people crying. I've heard this about people who have had visions or dreams, and they're transported to the new earth, and there's a lot of people who are in tears and they're crying, and other people are comforting them, because the trauma of awakening to being truly seen and loved. This is what we're headed for. So do the practices, do the work, do the 12 steps to 5D. It's free. It's on my channel. It's free. Do the free interdimensional meditations. And then by all means, please get a teacher, a mentor, somebody that you can talk to, because you don't have the ability. None of us do. We can't fix our broken thinking with our broken thinking. We can't think our way into healthier reality. We have to take actions that are contrary to all of our third dimensional survival instincts. For some people, this is going to be very difficult, very, very difficult shift. For others, maybe not so much. For me, it's been very difficult. All right, so all conscious beings in the multiverse have souls, including ETs. All ETs visiting Earth are transdimensional, rarely manifesting in the third dimension. Any alien manifesting in 3D and or behaving sociopathically is in fact a human. There is an ongoing 100-year psyop in all media portraying ETs as evil. 95% of all UFO phenomena recorded and replayed are human craft. Almost 100% of UFO conventions, books, TV, news, social media is a psyop. The current whistleblowers on mainstream media are CIA plants promoting the psyop. 99% of all popular mythology about ancient aliens, Anunnakis, is part of the religious psyop. Until humans learn how to personally transcend 3D, ETs will be a mystery. Understanding the true ET phenomenon is key to the social shift to 5D. I'll take a look and see if there are any comments or questions. Hopefully I won't get triggered. This upcoming, why do I forget the name? This upcoming eclipse, I can really feel it. It's really bringing out the warrior in me. Steve Petherick is relating to me. Hi, Steve. Rithna, honest feeling. I always thought that the movies showing us going to war with aliens was wrong in such a perverse way. I couldn't put it into words. Mars Attacks, for example. Yeah. It's, now that I know, now that I'm a proud tinfoil hat wearer and a blue, red pill, whatever you want to say. Now as I look back at Hollywood, and there's a reason why I didn't make it in Hollywood. Now I know one of the reasons I didn't make it. Was because that, I wasn't designed for that. There was all kinds of things I wasn't willing to do, that other people I knew did and heard about having to do to make it. And people could just tell I wouldn't go that way, so they didn't bother even trying. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. What was I talking about? But what we just had a movie come out. I don't know anything about it, but I'm pretty sure it came on this month, and it was about civil war. What does that tell you? It tells you that the dark forces want civil war in the United States. They want to bring down the United States. It's the last symbol of freedom, even though it's been completely overtaken, and there is no such thing as a republic or a democracy there. It hasn't been for certainly since Kennedy was shot. And if you look on my shorts, I tell you why Kennedy was shot. Surprise, it has to do with ETs. What else? Afro-Man question. Does doing celestial qigong or summoning the immortals, eyes closed, shut, empower the movements? No. Nope. I encourage you to keep your eyes open. Pyro X question. Can one of your courses help me get in contact with peaceful deities? As opposed to what? Unpeaceful deities? How long have you been on my channel? What did I just get through saying? You get outside of the third dimension, there's no such thing as evil, unpeaceful. Can one of my courses? Of course they can. I don't know how to answer your question. I can tell you're afraid. I don't know how else to help you with that. There's nothing. There's no evil spiritual powers out there, unless you're talking about humans or demons or ghosts, and those are third and second dimension. If you're doing a spiritual practice, you're going out of 3D. You got nothing to worry about. It's a smorgasbord. It's all healthy food. Go fill up your plate with whatever food and garnish you want. Let's see. Can one of your courses help me get in contact with peaceful deities and spirits by purely meditating? And if so, are there any benefits? I'm not referring to 5D beings. What do you mean you're not referring to 5D beings? I don't know, my friend. I don't know what to tell you. Experience will give you everything. And you're trying to figure out questions to things you can't possibly understand without experience. So you know what used to happen in the past? If we were before the internet age and you lived in a country where you had actual teachers, your parents would take you to them and they would say, this is my son Pyro Axe and he wants to learn about the gods, and the teacher would say, oh, hello, do this mantra and stand in the corner and do this. And if you said, how long? He would say, thank you for coming, there's the door. Because you have to experience it. So there's so much fear in your question. Maybe it's just you don't know anything about it. I don't know. But you're asking one of my courses. You're not going to know until you do it. So just do one of them. Just do one. You can get an astrological reading from me or one of my astrologers who will give you a sadhana, which is they'll give you a mantra meditation and they'll tell you what ritual to do with it. I've got free rituals over in the 90-day challenge. I got no shortage of rituals in there. Just do one. Stop trying to figure it out ahead of time. Can you tell me some of the benefits? I don't know what the benefits are. I'm not you. People used to ask me about the celestial qigong, and they'd say, "Can you tell me exactly what the benefits of this practice is?" And I'd say, "No, I'm not you. This is between you and the universe. You find out. You want me to tell you what? Come on, this is such an internet age question. People, you're obviously younger than me, but people who were born in the 90s or later, everything has been given to you, by the internet. People are so entitled, but what ends up happening is you're so stuck in your head, you think you can Google everything. There are things you can't Google. You have to actually physically experience them. You want my help? I'd be happy to help you. Get an astrology reading from me. Go and purchase a session with me. I'll talk with you and help you and give you directions, and you can go do it. But if you've already got a course in mind, just commit and do it and find out what happens. That's how life works. You got to jump off and experience it. You got to jump off the edge of the pool in the deep end and learn how to swim. Ariel Kaiser Mahadeva, thank you. Thank you for waking people up. Thank you for being so brave to speak on this. Please, everyone, wake the fuck up. This is so incredibly important and relevant. It is time. Yep. I, of course, agree 100%. So, yeah, those of you who haven't done the interdimensional meditation, I recommend you do it. I recommend you do it. Do your best. The ETs love you. They're not going to give you more than you can handle or tolerate. I'm who I am. I always go after the most intense stuff, and I'm willing to die to experience it. So they gave me that. And they did. They pushed me, literally pushed me to the edge. They didn't push me to the edge. They gave me as much energy as I kept asking for, and much experience as I kept asking for, and my physical body broke at one point. You go back 2 years and listen to me, I'll say I can't do videos right now. I have to fix my body because my brain couldn't tolerate what it was seeing and experiencing because it was so unreal, so out of my understanding of reality. My body went. But I asked for that. They're not going to do that for you. If you say, just tell me what I need, give me a little bit, they'll give you what you need, what you can handle. And just be prepared to expand beyond it, because that's what's coming. And those that don't expand into this new consciousness, if they choose not to, I wouldn't want to live in the world they're going to live in. Everything, the split is happening now. So, anyway. And the good news is, I mean, I'm giving you all the gloom and doom, but the good news is that I've been to the 5D frequency at least twice. Not physically been to a 5D place, but they shifted me up a couple of times for hours at a time. And it is so unbelievably, amazingly blissful. You can't even comprehend it. And it was uncomfortable at first. I won't lie to you. It's, like your first orgasm. You remember your first orgasm? And then you're like, oh yeah, let's keep doing this. It's like that. First time you go, it's going to be, you're going to have to expand into it. But to stay there, you got to drop all the attachments. You got to drop, what you believe. This is why, the Hopis, we talk to a Hopi, they don't have a problem with it. They've been talking about it for, they never lost their original understanding of it. Other people, like some of the people that are still in undiscovered parts of the world, they're going to be fine. It's the people in 3D society that are going to have the hardest time with this. Anyway, I could babble on and on forever. Thundra says thank you. Steve Petherick says thank you. Yeah, okay, so we don't have anything else to talk about, so I'll leave it at that. All right, guys, so click the link in the description. Look at the documents. because those documents are talking about people who believe in Anunnakis. You think you want to believe in Anunnakis? You want to know who's really behind that whole conscious, deliberate misinterpretation of Sumerian mythology and Sumerian language? Read those documents. If you want to know what the point of that is, it has to do with human trafficking. It has to do with human forced breeding experiments. It has to do with human experimentation. You believe in the Anunnakis? What does Anunnaki mythology talk about? Anunnakis taking humans hostage and experimenting on them genetically. The thing about evil people, and I'll end with this. The thing about evil people is that they always in some way tell you what they're doing to you. The Anunnaki, what do you see? You see it on the History Channel mainstream media. Let me just, here on YouTube, I have seen from National Geographic. What this has to do with National Geographic, I can't possibly fathom. There are videos that are coming out now from National Geographic that says the UFO phenomenon, the threat to planet Earth. They're telling you what they plan to do. Who are the Anunnakis? They're not aliens. They're human beings. They're the elites. And they've recrafted the mythology about themselves. I watch it on Facebook all the time. It's plastered with these fake pictures of Anunnaki giants. Anunnaki giants was found in... Who do you think's putting that up there? That's how they see themselves. They see themselves as these giants, these gods that control you. They're not. They're human beings. They're human beings that run all of the media, that run all of the government. They're human beings who have underground layers that they're building. And they've made movies telling you what's coming. You're going to think it's aliens flying through the sky, but it's going to be human beings in human spacecraft using human laser-directed weapons. And you're going to think you're running away from aliens, and you won't be. You'll be running away from those people who, in their narcissistic fantasy, think that they are giant Anunnaki lords over you. It's all a psyop. They're all telling you what they're planning on doing. Wake the fuck up. Grow up. Believing in anything that makes you a tiny little abused creature. The belief in false beings of light. The belief in Jehovah throwing you into hell for being mistaken. The belief in Anunnakis using you as a lab rat to create a slave race. Any of those beliefs are the exact opposite of the truth. The truth is, you are a higher dimensional being. You have taken a sliver of your consciousness and you've put it into this third dimensional video game, knowing that you would have to battle against your own self-devaluation and your own fear of love, and that under that pressure cooker you would be forced to learn how to access your spirit and to act from it. And if you succeeded, you would gain huge amounts of knowledge and power that you didn't have before. And you knew that you were taking the risk that you would get lost in the game, and it would be, a long time before you made your way out. That's who you are. And anything outside of this third dimension, once you get out of it, you will be absolutely floored. It'll be beyond your understanding, the level of love. And it'll be the exact opposite. Instead of being in the presence of an Anunnaki who tells you you're just an animal that's here for my pleasure, you will be in the presence of unbelievable beings filled with infinite light, infinite love, who will heap upon you love, compliments, empowerment. They will tell you things about how amazing you are that you couldn't have possibly imagined. And you will have to expand into the true awareness of who you really are. But that will be your choice. And just like in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, when the light appears, you can fearlessly go into the light and expand into it and die to limitation and expand into higher awareness. Or out of fear, you can run from it and you'll be pulled deeper into manifestation. In the lower earth that's going to come, there's going to be no shortage of people talking about Anunnakis and exiting the matrix. There's going to be no shortage of people who call themselves the chosen ones. There's going to be no shortage of people who call themselves super empaths, no shortage of people who call themselves all that stuff, which is really just trauma-based, codependent victim mentality. There's going to be no shortage of that. You think this is going to stop? Do you think that the videos about aliens and Anunnakis is going to stop in the lower dimension? No, people are going to be trapped in their little, you won't own anything and everything will be given to you, World Economic Forum world, and you'll be watching videos about aliens. It's not going to stop. When you find out there's no such thing as aliens, you find out that other beings on other planets are you, that they're beings that have, just like your soul, they incarnated in a different planet and they might have a different species they walk around in, but the soul is exactly the same. When you find out that there is no violence on their planet, there is no money, there is no any of that stuff. It's people living in harmony and love each other and living in magic and all the stuff you fantasized about when you were 3 and 4 years old. You find out that's what's really out there. But in order to do that, we got to die to this third dimension, which means you got to die to your ego. You got to die to your attachment to being accepted and loved by the establishment. You got to die to your addiction to being a victim. You have to die to that, and that will be painful. All right, that's it. I'm done. I'm done preaching. All right, my friends, thank you. If I've been harsh in this video, if I've done or said anything that has hurt or offended anybody, know that it's coming out of my deepest desire to help every being on this planet. And you're hearing my frustration, and sometimes I don't know how else to get through but to come at you with a sledgehammer. If it's been the wrong approach for you in this video, I'll do other videos going in the other direction. But if anything I've said or done has been offensive or hurtful, please know that it's coming from a desire to help. And I'm always willing to learn. I'm always willing to be wrong about anything and everything. And so, having said that, my friends, if the flash don't come and or I don't get beamed up to the Starship Enterprise and or if I don't shift myself out of this third dimensional video game, I will see you all very soon. Please take very good care of yourselves and love yourselves. I love you, and so does all of consciousness in the universe. And I hope you learn that as well. Thank you. I will see you all very soon.